Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and especially you, nephew, welcome back to another Riftbound video. Now for today, we got a bit more of the presentation style videos for you. Instead of gameplay today, we'll try to get back to the gameplay next time. I gotta get some more games in on the sim before making a full video on that. But I thought today would be cool to just break down what I think would be great starter decks or starting leaders for you to play in Riftbound. For the first set, if you're watching this later on in the future, this is only for set 1 because it's all we got revealed. And simply, I just want to give you guys some options, some ideas before this game comes out really soon. By the end of this month, really, it's November 30th, but this should be out October 1st, and the game should be out October 31st, sometime at the end of October. But I got some leaders for you, and we're gonna go over them, their abilities and their combos, what your deck should be going towards. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So the agenda for today, we have two sets of leaders that I want to go over, 4 for each. There's 4 not starter decks, but proving ground decks that come all in one box. And that's these Garen and Annie, which you saw in my last video. And then there's the actual leaders in the first set, which will be this Jinx and Volibear. And I have 2 more to show you later on, but those are the type of decks I'm going to go over. I only chose 4 from the first set with what I feel like are the easier leaders to build around, or not only build the deck around, but also play. And I will talk about that in a second. But first, let's start with the decks that come in Proving Grounds. Like I said, you'll get 4, and one of them would be this Garen. Now, the cool thing about Proving Grounds that I noticed was they all have, or the 4 decks do, or 2 of the decks sort of coincide but do separate focuses. So this Might of Demacia Garen deck is much more focused on attacking. His effect is when you conquer, if you have 4+ units at that battlefield, draw 2. And 1 conquering is a thing you have to do when you're attacking, or is a thing that happens when you're attacking a battlefield. If you saw the last video, that'll probably be a good video to start if you haven't and you don't know anything about this game. But conquering is basically when you take over a battlefield, whether that's from it being empty or you taking it over from an opponent's control. And so this deck is built to focus around, or built with focuses around tokens and this assault tag here. The assault tag means when he is an attacker, he gets plus something. This one is assault 2, so he gets +2 might. This one is also an assault card, but it's only assault 1, so he gets +1 might when he's an attacker. And that just allows you to get a little bit of extra buff in your character, or in your units. I should start saying units instead of characters. I'm not playing One Piece anymore. In your units, when you're going after taking over battlefields. These are your, the ones with the actual might, because the other focus of this deck would be the swarm aspect with cards like this, Recruit the Vanguard. It is play 4 1 might recruit tokens, and then that's anywhere that you control, either your base or a battlefield you control. But just developing 4 bodies to get his 1 conquering effect, because you do need 4 or more, and then 4 or more as the conquer is resolved to draw the 2 cards. Because when you start an attack, when you're trying to conquer, it enters a showdown, and then your opponent has the option to interact with your bodies, so they can deal damage to some, KO some, remove some if they have, the right cards in hand and the right runes up to interact with your cards in the showdown. Let's say you attacked with 4 characters and they did remove 1, and you still conquer. even though you conquered, by the time that conquer effect resolves, you will not have 4 units, so you do not get to draw 2. And so one thing about this deck is the swarming aspect of it, of playing recruit tokens. And then there's other cards that when they play an extra recruit token, or when they move, they play a recruit token with them. Just buffing up or adding bodies to your attack, going wider on the board with lower powered bodies to get your conquers. And then the other things, and that's the turn boosts that this deck focuses on. And other things that this deck has that others don't normally have, or have with certain effects, is these enter ready cards. This unit here, it has I enter ready, but there's also a spell that has all your units enter ready for that turn, meaning that you can swarm your board that way and push, sort of surprisingly, to your opponent with 4 or more units to a battlefield, and you get your trigger out. And finally, what I have described here as turn boost, that sort of also counts as these assault tags, but also these spells that come with it, which give, I call it turn boosts instead of turn buffs, because buff is a specific term in this game which doesn't mean the same as these boosts. So this spell here, give 2 friendly units plus 2 might each. This isn't a buff, but it will boost them for this turn. So you can boost your recruit tokens, making 2 of them into 3 might recruits instead of just 1 might recruits, or buff your bigger or more important units here to make sure that they don't die in a showdown. But yeah, that is the idea behind the Garen deck, just having you learn attacks and having an attack bonus over your opponents. Now the other side of that is defense. So this is Master Yi, also comes in the Proving Grounds set, but his effect is, while a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. So this is more defensive focused, and also focused more on playing strong bodies instead of going wide like the attacker deck. Playing strong bodies like this Master Yi, which is a 6 might card, but if he's at a battlefield alone when he's defending, he is an 8 might defender on an attack, not from spells. And cards like this Mountain Drake, which is a 9 cost 10 might card, which is 12 on defense. So playing larger bodies that hold a lot of might in one body to help you with defense. So this is shield, I forgot to write defense right here, shield and defense focused, or solo play focused here, because you have cards like this Stalwart Pearl, which has the shield effect, and then there's other cards in the deck that have the shield effect, but it gets +1 might while a defender. So the exact opposite of this assault effect. He gets +1 as an attacker, and this one gets +1 as a defender. And then with that coinciding with the Master Yi's leader bonus, which is always active, by the way, that's something I should have said. This leader card is always active. So this would be, if he's alone, he would have shield, so +1, he would be 3 might, and then he would gain 2 from the leader. So this is a 2/5 defender, which is just extremely strong, especially in the early game, making it a bit more difficult for your opponents to try to conquer battlefields you control. Now he has or what I describe as unit replay. This Highlander spell is a reaction, so you can play this at any time before spells and abilities resolve. So it says choose a friendly unit. Next time it dies, recall it. Or next time it dies this turn, I'm sorry. Recall it exhausted instead, and recalling means send it back to your base. And it doesn't count as a move, but the card text does say exhausted, so it won't be active. So let's say your opponent did develop let's say you played this out, right? And then you moved it to a battlefield, conquered it, whatever. So now you only have this out, determining or having it in the back of your head that it's going to be extremely difficult for your opponent to push 12 might into a battlefield. So, but your opponent does. They either deal enough damage to this mountain drake to push its life total down and then trade out the rest of the damage, or completely build a attacking group of 12 might to push against this mountain drake, and then that dies. So it will be extremely punishing if you just spent your whole turn with paying all, or you paid your 9 energy the turn before, right? The next turn becomes active, you get your runes back, you can move this to a battlefield, and then you can save 4 runes for your opponent's turn. So instead of just losing that 10 cost high value body, forcing you to replay another one and go through those steps again, you can play this Highlander. Instead of sending it to your trash, you send it to your base. And then there's another card, I believe it's called Zonia's Hourglass, which does essentially the same thing, but you can play it hidden to a zone. And when a creature there dies, you can use that to send it back to your base, exhausted. So that is the thing. Because hidden cards do not count as units, you can play that to a battlefield and it will still get this buff. And then finally, the boosts that they have, sort of the same as this attacker with turn boost, but this one has a bit more cards boosting themed around the Yeez effect. Is this on guard? It says give a friendly unit +1 might this turn, then give an additional +1 might this turn if it's the only unit you control there. Now it specifically says there, so this can even be used if they are targeting cards at your base. Now it won't count as a defense, so it won't get his +2, but you can still use this to give +2 to your base if it's the only card there, and at battlefields. And then finally, you have this Honed Master Yi as your champion unit. It has ganking, which means it can move from battlefield to battlefield, and it enters ready, which is important because you can conquer here, and let's say you've lost all your characters on one battlefield, or you feel like this card would do better on another battlefield, you can move it there, either as an attacker or just moving your defense to another battlefield, which can be in addition to the Yeez effects, because if you saw in the last game, there was a battlefield that had cards here gain +1 might. So you have the +1 might from the battlefield, the +2 from this effect, and then you have this on guard if you had that in hand at the ready, making, let's say, this Yi, or keeping this Yi as the example, making it a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 might, just surprising your opponent if they're not ready for you having these certain cards in hand. But yeah, that's the defensive focus in this deck, or in the starters. Now, this Annie is the what I'm calling a low spellcaster focus in this deck. It is about, or it has a lot of action and reaction focus, and also about using spells with low mana and getting extra value from your what did we call it? Your leader effect. I don't know what this active is here for. This was probably supposed to go to a different tab. Ignore that. But yeah, so this Darkchild Annie, her effect is at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes. So if you're looking at the cards I have on the example here, you can curve out completely at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes, and then you have all 3 of these active in your hand if you did it that way. or you don't even have to curve out completely. You can save 2 runes and then still ready 2 runes at the end of turn, and then you have even more options you can play from hand. And so this coincides more with the lower cost removal, or playing a lot of little spells in whatchamacallit, comboing them together to deal a lot of damage to your battlefield, or even just dealing damage all around to little cost bodies on the battlefields. And also retreating your units if need be, because her cost, or her might, is also fairly small. I believe the strongest deck, or the strongest card in her deck, is the Tibbers, which is a 7 might. I believe it's 7. It's either 7 or 8. I might be wrong on that. I believe it's 7 though. Yes, it's 8 cost, 7 might. I'm sorry. But yeah, but getting value out of curving out using all your runes and then getting 2 back for defensive options is really strong in this game. Being able to remove characters on your opponent's turn is really strong in this game, or in any game in general. But her just being able to do it while also not feeling like you have to sacrifice too much on your turn, leaving runes up. Now she also has some recursion that flows good with her with the other cards in deck. This champion unit, when you play me, return a spell from your trash to your hand. So you can grab any of these spells back from your trash that you've already used and put them into your hand. She's only 4 and 1 recycle, so you can play her out, leave however many up. Say you had an extra one of these in hand, or you want to grab a bigger spell because this is just any spell. It does not have to be a low cost spell, and play these out on your defensive turn. Or this anti-fiery, which is your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage. So like I said, these cards are built more towards dealing more chip damage to an opponent rather than hard removal. But this Annie, if you play her out, no matter where she is, this is just a constant effect. It will buff your spells. And you can play these side by side and use a spell with the buff, play this out, add it back to the hand at the end of the turn, ready 2 runes, and then you have the spell ready for anything you want to do on your opponent's turn, if they activate a showdown, that is. But yeah, really good high curving deck here, and especially if you are new to card games. This is something that I was doing a lot when I started One Piece. It's just using all of my Don, all of my resources on my turn, even if I had event cards in hand to use as counter. I know I'm speaking One Piece turn and I'm jumping back and forth, but this is just good so that even if you do forget, like me, not to completely curve out and to save some runes active for your defense, this will automatically always give you 2, and your deck is sort of built around having 2. But yeah, that is the Annie deck. And then we have the high spellcaster deck in the Proving Grounds, which is still focused on action and reactions, but more on high mana, having draw power and staying alive to the late game. So the high spellcaster is mainly because of her leader ability, or legend ability. I'm sorry, should be saying the actual terms. Legend ability, which is always active, which is when you play a spell that costs 5. Costs 5. I don't know. I guess energy is this term, and then runes is this term. So I'll say 5 energy or more. Draw 1. So you get a little extra draw power as you play out your high cost spells. Now, this is focused on playing cards that's high cost, but it does not lock you into only playing these high cost cards. It is built more for the late game, but you have cards like Eager Apprentice, which is when I'm at the battlefield, energy cost for spells you play is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. So that pushes these 2 spells here down to 5 and a 7. And then you also have 3 copies of these in your deck. So if you have multiple of these at battlefields, then you can reduce it by 2 or 3 if you have all 3, which is unlikely, but it's not completely out of turn. And then you even have this Lux that you can have as your champion, your chosen champion, which has the reaction add 2, use only to place spells. So yeah, you can use her sort of as a mana rock. Just leave her at your base because she is only a 2 might card for cost 2 might. So she really isn't an attacker anyways. She can get sniped from your base depending on the cards your opponent has, but it does allow you to ramp into your high cost spells, which allows you to draw with your leader effect. And then these high cost spells are high mana, but they have much stronger effects. So this one is 6 costs, 2 runes recycled, but it deals 6 damage to each of up to 2 units. So if you want to compare that to the Annie deck, this one only deals 2 units to a battlefield, and this one only deals 3 units to a battlefield. I think the other cards that come with this deck also have that battlefield, or is forced to be battlefield effects, and I don't think it goes over 3 damage. So you can see the difference in the costs here, where the higher the cost, the more powerful the effect, obviously. But this doesn't even have the battlefield effect, so you can snipe something from their base for 6 damage, and you get 2 units out of this as well. And then her own signature spell, Final Spark, deal 8 to a unit, which is extremely strong. So this is more of the hard removal in the deck, or in the Proving Grounds set, compared to Annie, which is more combo removal, forced to use multiple cards to get to most of these character cards or unit cards might. And then finally, you even have your own way to get high might with this other Lux champion unit. Is when you play a spell with 5 or more, give me 3 might this turn. So that pushes this up from a 5 might card to which is already a strong card, by the way. 5 might is a pretty high stat line, which we'll go over soon. But it pushes her up to a 8 might card. And it is the same exact effect as this. So you become an 8 might card, and you will draw a card. So there's some combos there. Really strong, but very late game, because you do have to generate these enough runes to use these effects, and cards like this effects do make you recycle runes, so it can be a little bit difficult, but when you get there, she is very sturdy, very strong on any turn. So yeah, these are all the decks for the Proving Grounds. I hope you guys see what I mean by they all sort of coincide with each other, and they all sort of counter each other, by the way. This, being the high cost removal sort of counters this defense, because this only happens if he's defending. So if it's just a high cost removal, like this Singularity can just straight up get rid of this Master Yi, because he's only 6 costs, and that does not count as an attack, so his defense bonus won't go off. He can be saved with this signature spell, but it is still very high cost removal. What would have a difficulty getting over that is this the Annie deck, where you would need multiple forms of damage to actually get rid of this Master Yi. And at the same time, this Annie deck does well against this this attacking deck, because you do play a lot of lower cost or lower might cards like these tokens, and cards that I don't have up here that are around 3 and 2 might at base. which you can buff with these if you have it in hand, but it is very hard to get over with this Annie. And at the same time, this Garen deck sort of counters the Lux deck, because Lux has high cost removal, but this one can only get to 2 units, and you are recycling 2. This one only gets to 1 unit, which isn't, I shouldn't say isn't enough, but it doesn't bode well against a card that's swarming the board as much as this deck can do. But they all are pretty competitive when going against each other. So if you do want to try this game out physically and you don't want to play the sim for some reason, you can pick up the Proving Ground set and play around with your friends, and they are all fairly balanced well against one another. All right, so let's get into the decks that come in the actual first set. So I have these set at different levels for ease of play, not for viability. And so for the first deck, we got the Big and Tall Volley Bear deck. This one is, his effect is when you play a mighty unit, you may exhaust me to channel 1 rune exhausted. And a mighty unit is a unit with 5+ might. So like I said, with this Lux, she's actually considered a mighty unit here. She can't go in this deck because there's only red and orange. I believe that's this color. I need to, that's body. I do know that one. Body and Rage, Fury, Body and Fury. I'm there, I'm catching up. But yeah, so when you play a unit card costs 5 or more, you channel a rune exhausted. Now, this sort of is like ramp, but sort of not. This is more, that's why I only said resource focused, because this is more of just resource recursion, because a lot of mighty cards have this symbol here. So this symbol means you have to recycle a rune to play it. Same thing with this Lux. You have to recycle a rune if he was even allowed to play that. He is allowed to play this Yi if he wanted to, which is a mighty card, but he has to recycle a rune. So what this sort of does is just make it cheaper by one recycled rune, because you'll recycle a rune and then you'll gain 1 rune exhausted with his effect. So it does help in that sense, a bit more unit focused to ramp high power. Now there are cards that don't recycle runes that are mighty, but I don't know why I didn't grab one, unless I'm just wrong about that. But yeah, this one is sort of along the same lines of the Master Yi deck, where you're playing a lot of stronger body cards, and there are some ramp tools in the deck, or in this set, that comes in the body class. I know there's a card that is you can gain Arrested Rune, or if you cannot gain Arrested Rune, draw a card. I'm forgetting the name of it, but there are some ramp options in here. I'm sorry if that was loud. I need to fix my microphone stand. But there are some, I forgot my sentence, good lord. Yeah, there are cards that do allow you to ramp, but the other cards in this deck are more around cheating these bodies out. Cards like this Gear Dazzling Aura says at the end of your turn, reveal cards from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit. Play it ignoring its cost, and recycle the rest. So you'll just go through the cards in your deck until you find a unit, and then play it without paying its cost, which is important because I believe you do not need to recycle at that point. So let's say you have this on the field, paid the 9, you're recycling 2, although at 9 you don't really need to ramp anymore, but you reveal a mighty card, you don't pay its cost, you still will get this effect because it says when you play here, and this is also says play it. So the terms match, so you do gain a rune exhausted. And then the other high thing, or the other thing about having high power, is it combos into the rest of your deck, or other cards in your deck, like this one. Choose a friendly unit in your base. Deal damage equal to its might to all enemy units at a battlefield, and then move your unit there. So let's say you have your Volibear out in your base. So you'll deal 9 damage to all units at a battlefield, and then move your Volibear there. So more than likely, you're board wiping somehow. You either will clear with the damage done, or you'll clear out some cards, maybe not all of them, but then you move your champion there. So you move your unit there, which means another showdown, or a showdown will start, and you have 9 attacking into whatever card they had -9. -9 health, that is. They can still deal damage back to you, and you might lose your Volibear, but for the more than likely you will not. Actually, I forgot. So if you did, let's say it was this Darius for that example. You deal 5 damage, and then you move the Darius there, and now the battle starts, and then it's 5 against whatever they have left. The reason why that is important, because this Volibear has its own effect. Is when I attack, deal 5 damage split among any number of units there. So if you combo it with this card, it would be deal 9 damage, move this card to that battlefield, and then the showdown will start, and he is attacking, so you will have 5 extra damage to split among the enemies there, and then the battle will start, and you will have the 9 might going to whatever they have left, if they have anything left, because that's 14 damage going into a board, or into a battlefield, just off of that one combo. I didn't even realize how strong that was until I read it right now, but that is extremely strong. But yeah, and then this card I just threw in just to coincide with this. You see this deflect 2. It says your opponents must pay 2 recycled runes to choose me for a spell or ability. So this just helps your units survive, because they are high cost. More than likely, you will only be playing 1 per turn. And so this deflect protects the Volibear, but this unlicensed armory also protects your units. This is a gear, so you can discard 1 and tap, choose a friendly unit. The next time it dies this turn, you may pay 1 recycled red rune to recall it exhausted instead. So you can keep your units alive through this gear, by discarding 1. Which can be really strong when you have these strong cards on the board, and especially if you reset them back to base, starting a new attack again. So yeah, that's the big and tall, the idea behind this Volibear deck, having a big and tall deck. And now something that I should say before I move on, the leader cards that I chose in set 1 sort of coincide with the what I think the idea behind these proving ground cards were. Is these leader abilities do not need you to activate it, except for 1. But yeah, all of these are just active at all times. The only thing you need to do is remember, and when you get your effects, it'll automatically happen. Same thing with this Volibear, and then same thing with this Jinx. So this is a bit step up in the difficulty. It is discard focus. And also a low mana removal deck, or not even a removal deck, but low mana deck in general, and gains a lot of trash value. So the discard comes from the actual champion Jinx. When you play her, you discard 2. You can also accelerate her to have her play active. She has assault 2, so pretty strong 3-cost unit here, and I'm sorry. And the discarding coincides with cards in your deck. So this card discards, this card can discard, this card has to discard as well. And you fill up your trash pretty fast, which leaves you room for your units like this. Rasha the Sun Treader. I think that's how you pronounce that. It says I cost 1 less for each card in your trash. So it starts at a 10. It's only a 10-6, but ramping your trash as quickly as you can with this deck can get this down to a 3 extremely fast. And then you even have ways to keep you in the game, because if you deck out, you lose. Like this Vi ganking, and then recycle 1 from your trash to give her +1 might. Now, this does not say once per turn, so I'm assuming you can do this as much as you want. But it does, you know, have some anti-synergy. If you do it too much, you'll lose cards in your trash before, I guess it's just a sequencing issue at that point, but you'll lose card in your trash for cards like this Rasha to buff her might up. And the fact that these cards are low mana means that you can use them for the value that they need. This spell is low mana, this Vi is low mana, this can get to low mana. 4 cost is pretty low mana, and then 3 cost is low mana. Should not be saying mana. Low runes, excuse me. Excuse me, Riftbound players. Let me runes. Yeah. I gotta secure that sponsorship somehow. Low rune cost to play these cards for 2 reasons. You get a lot of combo potential out, and you also get the cards out of your hand. And the reason why it's discard focus is because the Jinx effect is at the beginning phase. If draw 1 if you have 1 or fewer cards in your hand. So you're incentivized by the leader to trash cards from hand to get extra value or get extra draw value from your deck. This does mean you do play with a pretty low hand, but the idea behind the deck is getting as much value out of your discards as possible. So cards like this, it's discard 1 and then deal its energy cost as a damage to a unit on the battlefield. Ignore its power cost. Okay, so that's the word. So this card's energy cost is 10, but the power cost is 1. So you can, for not Don. Okay, I've done all the resources except for runes, Dawn and mana. Okay, for 2 runes and a recycled red, you can discard this and deal 10 damage to a card at a battlefield, to a unit at a battlefield, which is extremely strong. And then on the other hand, we have her signature spell, which is also really strong in this deck, because when you conquer, you may discard 1 card to return this card from your trash to your hand. So let's say you have, or your goal is to have 1 card in hand, right? So let's say you played out your set for turn, and you have this at your base, this at your base, and this at your base, but they have something big on there, something 5 on the battlefield. You can play this out for the turn, paying for recycling a red or a purple, going down to 1 card in hand, removing that card from the battlefield, and then moving these up to conquer, and then this trigger goes off, so you'll trash 1 card from your hand, grabbing this back for another turn if need be. And at the beginning of your next turn, since you only have that 1 card in hand, you'll draw 2. So you'll have this sort of always recycling in your hand, getting amazing trash value out of this card alone. And then there's other cards that can go into this deck that gain units back from trash, that gain spells back from trash. These are the same colors as this Annie, so you can even throw this Annie in here if you want to gain the spells back from trash while developing a unit, or even playing this Annie here to add a bonus damage to cards like the Death Rocket, and even this card will add a bonus damage if you have her out on the field. So yeah, really strong, low or easy I call it, or I would call it, an easier to curve out deck. But it is a bit higher. I feel like it's a bit higher in playing difficulty because of the discarding effect. You do have to know which cards in my hand do I not need right now. Will I be fine with getting them later? Will I be fine with discarding them now? So you're not discarding misplays or misplaying in your discards. Moving up another level, we have this movement deck with Misfortune. Her effect, this is an activated effect, so you do have to tap her, and it says give a unit ganking this turn, so it can move from battlefield to battlefield. And so yeah, so this is ganking and move focused. It's a bit higher because of one, the activated ability, and two, it relies a lot on combos and battlefield knowledge. Or checking battlefields, knowing which battlefields to start at, which battlefields to move to, when to move back to your base, and things like that. But yeah, it's still a pretty, I feel like should be a pretty simple deck to get into the game with, especially because of the ganking effect, making movement a bit more streamlined, because otherwise any card can move from base to battlefield or battlefield to base, but only cards with ganking can move from battlefield to battlefield. So even just having this optional ganking to any unit that you have is good for your play turns. So you're not like, oh, I wish I can move this from one battlefield, like this card here. Let's start here. You can play her to an open battlefield. So if a battlefield is clear, especially early game, especially if you go second, you can just start the game off, play her to an open battlefield. You'll gain the conquer point there, and then if on the next turn they don't remove this card, you give her ganking, move her to the other battlefield, or if they conquer the other battlefield, you can play out another card, give one of them ganking, and then move them from battlefield to battlefield. So there's a lot of different combos. I'm not explaining it as well as I should, but there's a lot of different combos that you can do in this deck. Now her signature spell is Bullet Time. It says pay any amount of recycled runes and deal that much damage to all enemy units at a battlefield. And so this also coincides with our ganking effect, because let's say your opponent has developed a really strong defense on one battlefield that will be hard to move over from just with just one card at a battlefield, at the other battlefield that you have. So what you can do is play this spell, recycle as many runes as you want to clear out that battlefield, and then give the card ganking, move it to the other battlefield, getting another conquer point. And then on top of that, there are cards like this. When I attack, deal 1 damage to a enemy unit here, and this is important because if you gank from one battlefield to another, it does count as an attack. So you can play this as an attacker, move it to one battlefield, or even combo it with this card, move this to a battlefield because you move it and ready it. So this will move to a battlefield. It will be attacking, dealing 1 damage to an enemy on top of the 3 might. Let's say that they had a recruit token there, so you moved it to that battlefield, you gain the conquer point, and then you can give it ganking, moving it to another battlefield with something else you may have had on your base, and getting her this attack trigger again. But yeah, and finally, this Misfortune champion unit comes with ganking, so you can move from battlefield to battlefield. And it says the first time I move each turn, you may ready something else that is exhausted. So this can be runes, characters, gears. I think that's it. Actually, I believe this is the leader as well. I believe so. So you can, although it would be strange, but you can give a card ganking, move this with something else, ready the leader, and then give another card ganking if that's the way you want to play it. But you can also just move it, ready another character that is rested anywhere, and then it will have a movement as well for the turn. So that is more of the combo focus of this deck, knowing when to move this, knowing what to ready, and knowing what which battlefields to attack to first. So that's why this is even higher in the difficulty. If you are following along with me, you can play it in this order, or you can just play whatever you like. You know, it's not gonna hurt me. But I thought that these were the best for the certain, or for learning the game, especially as a new card game player. Now finally, we have this stun deck. This is Leona Radiant Dawn. It's when you stun one or more enemy units, buff a friendly unit. So this is not an activated ability, but it is even higher, because I feel like this has even higher combo focus. And it also introduces buffs to the game, or it introduces buffs and stuns, which I will talk about soon. But it's very high comboing, and you need to know which cards to target for your stuns, which is important because stunning in this game is not like most other games. When I think stun, I think it'll stay rested on your opponent's turn, but that's not how stuns work in this game. Stuns means that it does not deal combat damage this turn. So it will still become ready on your opponent's turn and all that stuff. But on the turn that you stunned it, it won't deal damage. So let's say, let's go back here. Let's say he left this Mountain Drake here on a battlefield, and I played this Leona in to attack it. So I can move this Leona to the Mountain Drake arena. It won't do any damage to my Leona. I will do 4 to him. Actually don't know what happens if 2 units are left on a battlefield. I'll have to look that up in a later video. But yeah, either way, it won't do damage to this Leona, so she won't die. But then again, I will only do 4 damage to the dragon, so the dragon won't die. But the stun will go off. The other thing is the comboing. So cards like this Solari Chief is when you play me, choose an enemy unit. If it is stunned, kill it. Otherwise, stun it. So you can let's continue with that sim, which playing this Leona, pushing it against that Mountain Drake. The Mountain Drake is now stunned for the turn, and then you can play the Solari Chief to kill it, rather than stun it, or stun something else if you want to. But that is one of the combos that you can do in a deck like this. And then other combos are these gears, and then the spell. This gear is when you kill a stunned enemy unit, you may exhaust this to draw 1. So just a draw help. And also this signature spell, it says stun an enemy unit at a battlefield. You may move a friendly unit to that enemy unit's battlefield. So a bit of combo potential between, let's say, with these two, because you can stun. Let's say they had 2 dragons there. Just keep up in the dragons. Say they had 2 dragons there. You can stun an enemy unit and then move this to that battlefield, starting an attack, which means that she will stun another unit. And then with that, every time you stun it, you can give a buff to any friendly unit. So actually, when she attacks, you actually become a 5. And this is a great time to talk about buffs. So buffs, the reason why it's different from, or why I said it's different from boosts from this deck, is you can only have one buff on one unit unless the unit says otherwise. I know Lee Sin has a unit that says otherwise, but yeah, buffs are only +1 might, and you can only have one on each unit. And so anytime any of these stunned triggers go off, you can buff a unit. So that's why it's important to know your targeting for your own units, but also your other your opponent's units, to know what's important to not be dealing damage to you, because it's not always just the highest cost or the highest might. You have to know which which one's more important on the opponent's board to not be dealing damage in a showdown. Now another card or another type that's important in this deck is this tank. It says I must be assigned combat damage first. So in a deck like this that runs stuns, let's say you pushed this Sunlit Guardian up with this Leona, and they had, and they had, because I don't want to switch tabs, and they had, oh Lord, excuse me, and they had two of these Solari Chiefs on the board, and you're attacking into it. So with the attack trigger, you will stun one of these Solari Chiefs, but he will still have 4 might, and then your opponent chooses where that might goes, outside of cards that say tank, that say you must assign combat damage to them first, because otherwise your opponent obviously would just focus on your Leona. But since you stunned one of them, he only has 4 might to go through, and that 4 might will have to be assigned here, leaving only one might to go to the Leona. And then it will be, well, when the Leona stuns, you will get a buff to give to the Leona or the Sunlit Guardian. So you can actually give it to the Sunlit Guardian, making sure that all 4 might goes here. And then it will be 8 against 8. And you will clear out the Solari Chief, or both Solari Chiefs, leaving the Leona there, and your Sunlit Guardian will die, which is another important thing about targeting, and the combos of this deck. But yeah, that is pretty much it for today's video. I hope this was easy to follow. I hope you guys are excited for Riftbound as much as I am to come out later this month. I will be returning with some gameplay hopefully tomorrow. If not, then hopefully 2 days. But yeah, I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you click the like button, and make sure you're subscribing to see more Riftbound content. And last but not least, make sure you support your local card shops, and goodbye.